So for this ride we are down in Kent and we are following National Cycle Route 17 and maybe bits of 18. There's a lot of cycle routes around here, and this one is the Pilgrim's Way, so it's a quieter route and intended for pilgrims. So the 17 is the one that goes diagonally through the centre there. You can see there's loads of them, and this is a route down in Kent, north west Kent, and we're following from Hollingbourne and heading towards Ashford, and then it will go up to Canterbury. So here's the Hollingbourne bit, and you can see just towards the end there are two alternative routes for the path that we took. So we went on one direction, we followed the official route, which is this three sides of a rectangle, and then coming back we tried the fourth side of the triangle, and it just means a little bit of main road. But generally it's a really quiet route. It's pretty easy, although there are one or two places that you've just really got to watch out for. So here we are leaving Hollingbourne, and we literally on gravel and farm track, and then occasionally we hit these bits of road or we run parallel. Here we've just crossed the main road and we stopped for lunch there, and we took the alternative route back following the official Pilgrim's Way, and then retraced our routes back to Hollingbourne. So a very simple journey, about 10 miles in each direction really, and almost no climb at all. It says 1,700 feet, it barely that. So here we are leaving Hollingbourne, and we turn right. That car that overtook us made a mistake. It's not really suitable for cars, you will see, and there he is turning round and coming back again. So we carry on. The surface conditions generally, it's these scalpings and stones. It's generally not too bad. There's quite a bit of road in places, but you can see we'd had a lot of rain and parts of it became really treacherous. Clay and mud in the wet are not ideal. So occasionally we would stop. You can see the scalpings here are quite dry, quite level. The surface has been well maintained. There's almost no traffic that you'll meet, and we just had problems with kids on motorbikes really who had messed up part of the route. But you can see here as we pass through this area of coppice that, you know, the road surface is not bad at all, but you would need decent tyres for it. Beautiful wildflowers at this time of year, so we were there in early April and the violets and the bluebells were just coming out. What sort of bike do you need? Well, really any sort of bike other than a road bike with nice expensive tyres. There's a lot of stone and you'll tend to get thrown about a bit. I think you need broader tyres, the wider the better, and drop the pressures a little bit because it is quite grumbly underneath, and in wet weather you'll need something a bit grippy. But you could do this with a family very easily and just select the section that you want. But there's a lot of people that are doing pilgrimage, so I would just ask that you are a bit more respectful of them and travel with them. You can see occasionally we'll cross over a road, but nothing particularly busy. And one of the great things is that there's often places to stop and places to stop and reflect really. So there's information boards, interpretation boards, and you can see here there's a timeline so you get a feel for it. But you can look across farmland, and there's our tandem as we move. So let's work our way along this next section, and you can see it is the Pilgrim's Way, and that's what it's officially called. And sometimes we're around the backs of houses and the surface is average, but other times when we get out onto the farmland it really starts to deteriorate, and there were places where we did have to get off and walk because motorbikes had been up and down. They're not supposed to be there, but you can see this section here. So this is across the farm, so when we left we turned left off that road, and this road just deteriorates more and more. So you can see these large puddles, and gradually the surface gets worse and worse. We rejoined the road there for a short section, and now we're behind houses again. And this section of road, there's nothing wrong with it at all. That's one of those gates which encourage horses to go over but are meant to prevent motorbikes. Well, there was one lad just grinding a groove into the ground. So down back into the muddy bits, and again some parts of these were a little bit treacherous, so you do need to be careful. And that was a section, little gate, where actually looks as if somebody had fly tipped a load of stuff. That is the story of Kent, though. Fly tipping capital of the world. So we now turn off into another farm track, and this was very muddy, and we did struggle in places. There were a few trees, quite a lot of roots across. You see cars parked there right across the entrance. But as we follow up here, you can see it's a bit muddy and a bit slippery. That bit was particularly bad, and that's where we slid off. So at this point my wife walked and I rode the bike, and then she got back on later. But we were struggling through all of this. It was just so slippery. It doesn't look it, but chalk and water are not good bedfellows, and they're extremely slippery. Another flood that we had to contend with, that was about a foot deep of mud that just sucked the wheel and grabbed hold of it, but we managed to get out the other end. Again, exacerbated by motorbikes, and that was a rutted track, this one here, where if you get yourself in the wrong section, your wheels are in trouble because you can't actually steer. So we work our way out, climb up this little bit of a hill, and work our way towards the top. Great views over the downs. So these are the Kent Downs. And it's a bit grumbly and a bit rumbly along this section, but the wildflowers were out, the blackthorn in the hedges were out, and there's lots of interesting things to see. Temporarily we joined a road there and crossed over, but now we're on a back stretch beside the farm, and this bit was quite rooty. There were roots from the trees crossing all the time, and places where somebody had cleared fallen trees as well. So back a bit through a bit more mud, slipping around there. You can see it had been a bit of a wet year, but it would be nice if those parts were maintained and looked after. And so we start to head down towards the road that takes us on our little detour that we did. So at this section you come down and we wait at this junction, and it's very easy. If you've got a family, I would definitely recommend we just go across the main road down here. So we turn round across the main road, and then you're straight onto this little back road, which is the rectangle, three sides of a rectangle. But when we return, we stayed at the top of the hill, and it just means you've got about 100 metres of that main road that we just crossed the last time. So now we ascend up this final section and turn right, and now we're back on the main part of the Pilgrim's Way, and this is mostly a good quality piece of road, past some nice houses, and then we just get down the back by some abandoned works, and we didn't really go much further than this. We stopped not long up here because it was just interesting and we were running out of time. It was our last day, we had other places to go, so we stopped, had lunch, and then turned round and went back. And you can see it is muddy down this section as well, but actually really interesting. A lot of fascinating wildflowers that I thought were really good, and I spent a bit of time having a good look around. But you can see the path moving on, and down there are the outskirts of Ashford in Kent. So there we were parked, and can't beat a hot soup on a cold day, along with a cup of tea and a piece of flapjack. So then we head back, and this next bit is just really a rerun of the route that we did. You can see from the terrain chart at the bottom that actually there's nothing that's really steep. All the hills go up and down just by not very many feet, tens of feet at worst most of the time, and then you recover. Do be aware that there are many people on pilgrimage walking here and being reflective, so what we don't want really is great troops of cyclists pouring past, making a noise going too fast. It is meant to be a pensive ride. So here we are, we've just hit that little bit of main road because we've just taken the shortcut back. It was nothing wrong with it at all. And then turn left, and quite a lot of families on a pilgrimage now. And you can see that it's one of our rides, so of course it is raining. Now, it was during this section that we were actually overtaken by a group of 3 lads, all on motorbikes, all churning it up ahead. So that made it particularly bad going home, and we did struggle quite a lot. They didn't seem to care, and with their great big knobbly things thought it was great fun to scream backwards and forwards up this bit of road. And it would be nice if actually that could be controlled, because of the damage that they've done to the surface. It was worse going home, far worse heading back this way, and you can see we fell off several times just because it was so slippery. So again, slid off at that point, and then had to again walk along this bit of field. The motorbikes had churned an even deeper groove into the path. And then back onto the main part of the route, fell off again, struggled a bit here, had to push. Very, very deep puddles, some of them, nearly a foot deep, and just thick mud that grab hold of the rear wheel of the bike and just want it to go sideways, and giving you no traction at all. But there we are, we'll stop in a minute. I'm riding that on my own. Wife got back on, and we failed. So here we go, a bit more struggling through it. It was particularly bad, those motorbikes really messed it up. So over the roots, very badly rooty section there, quite knobbly, but not bad at all. Wonderful coppice on the side, bluebells, violets, oxalis, beautiful, beautiful plants. More people walking, and then we get to this section where there is a war memorial, a cross cut into the hillside, and we stopped here and had a little look around, and quite moving when you look at the number of servicemen that died. So Tandems National Monument, this cross cut into the hillside, a chalk cross. We always try and stop at war memorials, pay our respects, and then on we go past some flowering dogwoods, struggling over this gate now because the young people with their motorbikes had cut down really deep grooves trying to bounce their bikes over it. But really lovely wildflowers, lots of primroses around, and then we head back a bit of a hill and a bit more mud. If you get later in the down paths like this, you often find there's people walking dogs, and others, when you've got to cross the roads are a bit busier as people are returning home from work. People seem to stop work at 3:30. Gone are the days when you'd still be in the office at 7:30, 7:45, wishing you could get home. So not much further. These bits fairly straight, these minor roads here in the background. And we go along. This is probably one of the high points in terms of elevation, round the backs of the houses, and then descend between the fields of oilseed rape. I think the farmer had made an attempt to maintain these paths. So thank you for joining us. We're returning to the village now, Hollingbourne, and great place to stop. Quite interesting, you can move on a bit further. So this section of the Pilgrim's Way, we've got it down on our Komoot page, and you can download a GPX and follow us on our ride and repeat it yourself. And if you want any more details, don't forget to leave a comment, and we'd love you to subscribe to this channel. So we'll see you in the next ride. Take care and bye for now.